What is the flower?
Got a freighter coming soon. No time to talk.
Look at you, three-star ranger, deputized and ready to round up the bad guys.
No borders, just horizons. That's my idea. Orbital insertion completed.
Grab jump spinning down. Just look at those stars. And complete. Easy peasy.
Mole. How's the pirating business? Later, Gator.
Hello. I woke up in the middle of the night once and found Ensign Betty tinkering with some machine. Does she ever sleep? My family's all in the UC Navy, but being SysDef, I got bragging rights.
Yes? What?
Yes?
Heard you had to board the Siren of the Stars. I was on there once, for a tribute to my ancestor. I never felt more out of place. Welcome to the brig. As a member of SysDef, you may talk with the prisoners. As a personal rule, I simply ask that you adhere to youth. That means no mud on your boots, your hands are washed, and you are free of... Besides the fact that it's healthier, a sanitary brig is important for station security. In my experience, a prisoner will hide a shiv under a flake of dust if you let them. The cleaner a space is, the easier it is to spot irregularities, both inside the cell and out. I trust your Commander Ikande's undercover mole. I understand the lack of hygiene is part of the cover. So, lucky for you, you're an exception to my usual rule. But try not to abuse the privilege. He's a good man, singularly focused when it comes to the fleet. But that's not to say he doesn't care about his crew. I can tell you a story as an example if you'd like to hear it. Usually only when he has business here. But pretty much everyone passes by the brig on their way to other parts of the ship. Given he sees barely a glance of me most days, you'd think he wasn't paying attention. Hence the story, if you've got time. So, I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I forget to take breaks. One day, Commander Ikande passes by the brig and sees me at my desk. He takes one look at my haggard face and says, "Officer, I'm headed to the mess hall. If you're not with me in 15 minutes, your services will no longer be required on my ship." I tried to protest, but he was dead serious. So I went. We had lunch, talked about old times, and I went back to the brig, refreshed and ready to work. It's little things like that. You can see he pays attention and that he cares about the people. We have multiple turrets attached to the ceiling. As long as there's no actual fighting, I tend to let both sides dish it out. Yes, although it's always a balance. At the end of the day, these are ruthless pirates, and they will take advantage of any weakness you show. But I'll be the first to admit it's not an exact science, and we've made mistakes in the past with both the carrot and the stick. As chief officer of this brig, my worst fear is that we'll someday repeat them. As a matter of fact, I have a favor to ask. I understand that part of your undercover work involves going to the fleet headquarters, namely the key. While you're there, if you find anything pertaining to the history of the fleet, I'd be interested in learning about it. I apologize, but no one from our side has been to the key in ages. The history buff in me wants to learn more. I appreciate it. I've actually heard rumors about there being audio logs for an interview the founder of the fleet, Jasper Crix, did on the key. I'm interested in anything he had to say regarding his time in prison and how the prisoners were treated. If you find anything like that, bring it back here and we'll take a listen. The fleet and the UC are intertwined. And I've always felt knowing that past is an important part of what we do. In life, history can be a guide, a warning, or at times, a reflection. And if you want to know which one it is, you have to stare it in the face, regardless of how ugly it is. Really? I know you were headed to the key, but I didn't realize you'd actually get a chance to visit the lock. I almost respect the fleet for doing that. They're trying to pass down their history, or their version of it anyway. I respect the principle of teaching one's history. It makes me think Delgado wants the fleet to be more than just space pirates. When you connect the past with the future, you're trying to create a culture, a through line between you and Jasper Cricks. My apologies. I didn't mean to be unprofessional. It's just rare to talk to someone who got to witness that history up close. But all that aside, give me your honest opinion. What were the conditions like? On Suvorov. Part of the reason I joined SysDef was to find out more about his experience and whether the history books told the whole story. Which is what your Crix's side of it. If just to confirm what you saw. No, the prisoner surrendered willingly, as per the terms of your deal. This is probably the safest place for him. If the fleet want him dead, you can chat with him. So it's true. All my life I've been led to believe the guards on the lock were heroes. But there was part of me that always doubted the story. Even as a child learning about the history from the slates. Thank you for bringing me this. I get that Crix is about as unreliable a witness as they come, but I believe him. Are you going to? Because it isn't just any history. It's my family's. If you open up a history slate and look up the name Gero Petrosian, you'll find a hero decorated in medals. Medals he earned for escaping the riots on Suvorov. For helping his fellow guards escape the riots. And maybe that part is true, but it conveniently skips everything that happened before that point. No one ever asks what prompted the riots. It was just criminals being criminals, and that was explanation enough. My great-grandfather, to be exact. He lived until the year 2297, 10 years after I was born. Maybe. I don't know for certain. But what I do know is when I remember the look on his face, it's never one of pride. The thing is, even as my family rode the coattails of our name, I always felt like something wasn't right about the story. And it always came back to that day in the yard, playing games with my brother. It's the only memory I have of my great-grandfather that sticks. I'd like to say no, but how can that be true? Pursuing a military career, the name could only help. It was about a week before he passed. Me and my brother had the house to ourselves and were playing a game we called Prisoner's Run. It was a simple game. We drew a line in the dirt, and the object was for the guard to keep the prisoner from crossing it. But on that day, my brother came to the yard with an added surprise. He found a chest in the attic filled with goodies, a baton, a uniform, and a medal to serve as prize for the winner. Most likely, but given how unceremonious the boxes were, how could we have known? But when our family returned, I knew something was wrong. My great-grandfather didn't say a word, but behind his eyes I could see it. The shame. No one said anything to either of us. But the next day, the uniform and the medal were gone. At the time, I never understood why he kept those things buried in the attic. Now, it all seems so clear. I appreciate the kind words. I suppose that's the lesson I need to take from this, even though right now, it's hard to feel anything but shame. Either way, thanks for talking this through with me. I don't know if I'll ever know what really happened on Suvorov, but at least now, I have something beyond the family myth.
I believe I've already articulated everything I had intended to disclose to you. Good day.
Finally, I've been waiting to speak to you. From our last encounter on Neon, I could tell you fancied yourself as a bit of a businesswoman, right? Well, I don't want to waste any time with small talk. Let's make a deal so I can get out of here. As you can see, I'm not in the position to discuss specifics. We can hammer out the terms once you get me out of here. Smart move. Stick with me, and we'll both go far. I find myself in this unfortunate situation, thanks to a terrible misunderstanding. That little conversation on your evidence recording, the one where I'm speaking to Estelle Vincent about funneling electrical components. That was part of a sting operation to discover how the Crimson Fleet had been siphoning goods from Generdyne's warehouses. Much like you've been working undercover, I've been doing the same. Ironically, we've been investigating the fleet from opposite sides at the same time. Well, I was trying to keep a low profile. I didn't want to tip off Estelle, so my operation was deep undercover. Very deep. So much so that there's no other personnel at Generdyne, nor a paper trail that can corroborate what I'm saying. Being in a similar situation, I'm sure you understand the value of keeping the operation quiet. Nor would I, if you were in my position. So here's what I'm proposing. You spring me from the cell, sneak me off the vigilance, and then take me to New Atlantis. In return, I'll give you my access card to a safety deposit box filled with millions of credits. Consider it compensation for trusting me. Listen, I'm stuck in this situation with no means to prove my innocence. Thanks to you. The evidence on that recording means that UC will convict me, and I'll be sent to prison for a long time. I have no other choice but to run until I can find a way out of this mess. Yeah? Well, you're a pain in the ass. Look, I have friends in high places. I might be down for the count right now, but I'll be getting out of here one way or another. And when I do, I'm going to dedicate my entire life to making yours miserable. How's that for a deal? Now get the hell away from me. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Another night at the Hotel Sis Def. Please enjoy your stay. Be careful around the fleet. They talk about family, but it's just a bunch of crap.
Hello.
How's the pirating business?
We're so close. I just want the commander to start the attack now.
Patience. Their day is coming.
Back in basic training, I had the record for fleet kills. Wherever the Crimson Fleet go, we'll follow.
Okay. Hello?
Well, out of the frying pan.
Need anything before you head to Bannock?
I woke up in the middle of the night once and found Ensign Betty
Looking for some
tinkering with
last-minute
some
advice?
machine. Does she ever sleep?
Well done. Let's see what you found.
The fleet's planning a raid on Hopetown? Okay. I didn't expect them to be so bold, but I suppose desperate times call for desperate measures. Don't worry. I'll circulate the description of this captain to the authorities on Hopetown and make sure they never set foot in that settlement. Find anything else? So, Mr. Yasso is actually Lionel Soto. We thought Soto was dead. At least, that's what the records told us. I'll have the records updated, but seeing as Mr. Yasso has surrounded himself with the Crimson Fleet, there isn't much we can do. Yet. Anything else? We were aware that Miss LaRue was involved with Fergus Wickham. When her body was recovered, SysDef assumed he was the culprit. Sounds like we had it wrong. Should have pinned the murder on this Clay Dietrich perp. Well, we'll have to clear that up. Nice find. Any other fragments? So Voss engineered a way to directly interface with the key's mainframe? I knew he was a math genius, but didn't realize he was so tech-savvy. Well, we'll share this information with Galbank. Hopefully it'll help them shore up the security on their cryptocurrency. Have any more? Yeah, you're right. But there's no way this was a solo job. Shifting all those parts takes serious manpower. I'll send this to Mast so they can shake the tree a bit, see what falls out. Looks like Durand better start looking for parts somewhere else. That it? Perfect. Taking her out of the running is going to seriously damage the Crimson Fleet's hold on Neon. Even better, that's one less fleet captain and one less ship to worry about. Any other fragments? Tisk, tisk. Looks like Mr. Rokoff lied on his application to Trident Luxury Lines about having a clean record. No matter. Next time he jumps from the key, we'll have him picked up. That will be one less fleet captain for us to worry about. Find anything else? I'll be damned. So some of the UC guards at the lock helped touch off the riots. Everyone thought he was some kind of legendary criminal mastermind, but even the great Jasper Cricks needed a helping hand to get out of prison. Find anything else? It's amazing that all this romantic nonsense about Crix's legacy really just amounts to a rumor Jasper Cricks picked up in jail. It just goes to show you how a tiny rumor can snowball into a full-blown fairy tale. Find anything else? Okay, fine. I know there's more out there, so keep on it. Yeah, I figured it was only a matter of time before this came up. The reason I didn't bring up the Crimson Fleet is, well, I was one of them. It's something I'm not exactly proud of. He knows quite a bit about my journey. But I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention this conversation to him. I know a great deal about how they operate, what frequencies they use, their encryption techniques, their methods. So, in short, yes. Well, now that it's out in the open, I suppose I should explain. I was recruited out of New Atlantis by Neva Mora. She said I was making a name for myself, and it caught the fleet's attention. I was thrilled. It was a chance at bigger and better scores and gave me a ticket off-world. Why the heck would I say no? I raised hell on New Atlantis until someone stood up and took notice. And just like Adler Kemp stuck his neck out and vouched for you, someone else in the fleet did the same thing for me. In fact, it was my idea to send you to Sidonia for your first, well, I suppose you call it a mission. Of course she did. How else would you get an aspiring criminal to blindly follow you into a life of interstellar crime? They took me in. Delgado ran me through the paces on Suvorov, and before I knew it, I was part of the team. Now I was making some serious money. That apartment I boasted about in New Atlantis became a joke. I even made enough to buy my own ship. What do you think? It's a giant ice ball. I froze my behind off. We spent a while exploring the surface near the lock, while Delgado laid out his spiel about honor among thieves and all that nonsense. Never got a look inside the facility like you did. The moral here is obvious. I think the fact that I'm wearing this UC SysDef uniform says it all. Everything changed thanks to Commander Akande. The man basically saved my life. I owe him everything. If I've learned one thing about the Commander, it's that he cares deeply about everyone under his command. Look, I've already said too much. I promised Commander Akande I wouldn't talk to anyone about this. All you need to take away is that I've literally walked a mile in your shoes, and I appreciate the risks that you're taking. Carry through with this mission. I promise you I'll be there every step of the way. I suppose, though the Commander won't be thrilled that I told you, so keep it to yourself. So, when I was running with the Crimson Fleet, I put together a hell of a crew. 6 of the toughest pirates I could find. On the record, it's against regulations. My personnel profile is private, and you need the proper authorization to access the file. Off the record, Commander Akande isn't exactly popular at Mast for the way he runs his operation, so he likes to keep these things quiet. The fact that an ex-pirate is second in command to SysDef's pride and joy wouldn't inspire waves of confidence from his superiors. Oh, absolutely. I couldn't take my eyes off of any of them for even a second. Imagine trying to get some shut-eye on a ship like that. Didn't sleep much, I can assure you. My first mate was Arya Fikes, the toughest of the bunch. The only problem was that she had a hell of a temper. The smallest things could just set her off, and believe me, she took a while to cool down. Honestly, she was so overbearing she kind of fell into the role on her own. I didn't even make it official for months. Despite her temper, she always had my back and helped me keep the rest of the crew in line. Of course, it also helped that she was the best pilot in the fleet. She flew rings around what SysDef was throwing at us back then. In some ways, I suppose we all can. But for Arya, she definitely lost her temper much too often. Anyway, there was this one particular incident where we had a hot tip on a freighter supposedly running heavy with ore. The second we dropped out of grav space, we knew it was a trap. We'd been set up, and the UC was waiting for us. Somehow we managed to take out all of their attack ships. I grabbed Arya and we boarded the freighter. Well, it showed up on Chinya Voss's mission board, which means it could have come from anywhere. I don't know what he's like now, but back then, all of his missions were pretty solid leads with good pay. It wasn't brave. It was arrogant. We fought our way to the bridge and the crew surrendered. That's when the Vigilance arrived. I watched it vaporize my ship and crew in seconds. Commander Akande radioed over for us to give up, turn ourselves in. Arya went wild. Said she'd start executing crew if they didn't let us leave. The commander tried to talk some sense into her, but she was too far gone. I knew right then she'd rather die than surrender. Even as a pirate, I had my limits. I'd never shoot someone that was unarmed and couldn't fight back. As long as they surrendered and gave up the goods, there was no need for them to die. None at all. We were marooned on that freighter. No ship, no escape shuttles, and no chance of rescue. There was nowhere to go. I was caught in the middle. Commander Akande promised to be lenient if we let the crew go. When we didn't reply, he sent over a ship to board us. I saw Arya put her gun to one of the hostages' heads and saw that look in her eye. I could actually see her squeezing the trigger. Next thing I knew, a shot rang out. I'll never forget that look on Arya's face as she fell to the ground with the wound in her chest. Looked down at the gun in my hand like it belonged to someone else. I still don't know why I did it. I keep reliving that moment over and over, analyzing it, wondering if I could have done anything different. Every single time, I come up with the same result. Long story short, I spent a year in jail, then Keebway recruited me. I guess he saw something in me, a desire to turn my life around. I busted my ass to get where I am today. First mate of the Vigilance. Ironic I'd end up in Arya's position, don't you think? It took a while, and a lot of reflection, but I know we made the right choice. Had I continued down the road I was traveling back then, we wouldn't be speaking right now. I owe everything to Commander Akande for giving me a second chance. You come back alive. You hear me?